Buying a property internationally is very exciting, but it's also one of the biggest financial transactions someone can make. Even a small change in exchange rate can make such a massive difference. So today, I'm here to meet with Finance Country's preferred foreign exchange partner, Lumon, to discuss how buyers can protect their money and make buying a property abroad that little bit less stressful. So come with me and meet the experts.
Welcome,
Hey,
come on in.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I have so many questions to ask you. There is so much happening in the market at the moment. So shall we just grab a coffee and
Yes.
get going?
Let me show you around.
So Steve, tell me, what is Lumon and what do you do?
So in essence, we're a very property savvy currency broker. So we help clients by offering them better rates of exchange from the bank and a lot more service. So that means if there's an international buyer coming in, all of a sudden their budgets have gone up. Or from a vendor's perspective that's looking at leaving the UK, they can accept a lower offer and still achieve that price for their onward purchase.
So I buy or sell a property abroad, I come to you and talk to a currency specialist to make sure that I make the right choice in terms of buying, selling property and making sure that my currency, my money is safe and looked after.
So it's safe, secure, quick, people-led, and adding a lot of value, both from personal timing of transfer with the education and information we provide, but equally just plainly from a low-cost transactional point to make sure that we get them better rates than the bank.
There's enough stress in buying or selling property. You're taking some of that stress out.
For a lot of clients, their eyes and ears in the market, with so much economic and political events taking place, we're proactively engaging the clients to see and translate what's happened in the media, how does that impact your budget?
And so moving currency abroad, so many questions come into mind.
Yeah.
Obviously the danger, because you don't know what you're doing, but also the complication. Is it complicated to purchase a property abroad when it comes to currency and currency transfer?
Not really, no. Moving money around the world isn't as difficult as people think it is. When you're moving larger volumes of money, you've got the regulatory requirements around source of wealth and KYC. So that's source of wealth and knowing your clients. We do all of that, and I've got all the tech behind us to make that super easy. So an example here, we've been doing it so long that when we used to have to ID clients, they used to send us a fax of their passport and we get a black blob to go, yes, we're approved. Whereas now they just do it via an app quickly on their phone and it's really quick and simple. But again, it's that personal touch to make sure that that's all in place proactively to make sure that the money's at the right time in the right place.
So Steve, tell me, I am buying or selling a property abroad. When should I first speak to you?
Generally, the earlier the better. For the simple reason that the currency market's moving so much, you need to be informed and educated around how far your budget will go, theoretically protect that or take advantage of any gains or avoid any losses. So the sooner the better to get that information. Because ultimately we're not just a currency specialist, but we're an international property specialist. So we'll also inform them around the differences of this being perhaps a tax event, a wealth event. You have to look at visas following the Brexit. So there's all those other considerations as part of that. So the earlier the better.
Yes, indeed. I think people do not realize that actually currency change on a daily basis. And so the earlier they speak to you and see how far they can go with their money at the time, the better, really. So could you give me some examples of movement of money that made a huge difference to some of your customers?
The volatility is a huge bit, as you've mentioned. So when I first started doing this nearly 2 decades ago, if the market moved 0.5%, it would be big news and on the Financial Times the next day. Whereas now, if we see that 3 days in a week, it's a relatively quiet week. So timing that transfer can make a significant difference. So I'll give you a few examples. One of my favorites from this year was actually an American that came over and rebought their family home in the UK down on the south coast. We were introduced when they made the inquiry and the offer was accepted, so at the point of exchange. At that point, we helped the client and they decided to lock in the exchange rate. So they bought their pounds at the exchange rather than the completion. When the week of the completion came round, we did the maths, and believe it or not, if they'd bought their pounds then, it would have cost them another $180,000. So the deal would have fallen through, the property wouldn't have taken place. So it can make a meaningful difference.
And so I think that's really important for people out there to understand that there's not just banks as an option when it comes to money transfer. There are companies like yours who will probably get better rates and have a better insights than some of the bank to enable them to do that money transfer and get more for their money effectively.
Yeah. So in the nicest of ways, if we couldn't help and couldn't add value, we wouldn't be here.
And so what would be, do you think, the biggest misconception in transferring money?
Oh, the biggest. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to be cheeky here because the risks really come down to people assuming that all the prices are the same and they don't look around. They just assume that the bank is the best provider. And then second is the growing trend we see that people think that moving money is just transactional and they just do it when it gets to it on the to-do list. Whereas the difference in price is so staggering, it can make such a meaningful difference. So it needs to be proactively at the beginning of the process to make sure that X still equals X, the budget still adds up, the property they fall in love with is still in budget.
So, Steve, let's say that maybe one day I bought my property in Portugal, my dream property in Portugal. What my first conversation with Lumon would look like?
Well, first conversation with us, we'd get them a free account with us, which is basically doing a quick ID check for them. It only takes a few minutes to do. It's nothing too impersonal from it. It's really easy to do. And then they'd have a free consultation with their dedicated trader, their account manager, at which point they'd be going through the time frames of the purchase, i.e. when the funds are needed by, when the funds are available, so that we're defining their trading window, i.e. when they can start to manage that currency exposure, and then start giving a lot of information and education around the exchange rate. And by that, I mean, here's a quick comparison. We almost insist on this with the bank to prove to the client that they're seeing that financial benefit before we move on to the more exciting things around managing that currency transfer. So it's the current rate of exchange is X, the trend is Y, the key days and events coming up are A, B, and C. These banks are saying this might happen, these banks might be this much, to manage the risk to reward ratio from a client and start putting a strategy in line with the availability of the client's funds and their own emotions and risk appetite around how they want to manage that transfer.
And so buying a property, whether it's in the UK or abroad, anywhere, means several transactions with the solicitor, transactions sometimes with taxes, transaction with different people and smaller transactions. How does that work?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The buying process in different countries of the world have different payment schedules, from a deposit and a balance payment. And in Portugal, you can go over there and buy a property and be the legal owner within 2 weeks. In France, it's normally 4 months. But when we're looking at new builds, it might be over 12 payments across a 2-3 year payment schedule. So when we're dealing with a client, we'll help and be aware of those payment schedules and then try and manage the currency transfers from that. But really importantly, it's not like we just make a strategy at the beginning and that's what happens. You know, we are all actively changing our mind with new information. And there's a lot of political and economical events at the moment. So we're proactively informing clients around what's happening and how that can impact their budget and reviewing their risk appetite along with that. So we're, in essence, to be honest, their eyes and ears in the market to try and help them make more informed decisions.
So I open an account with you, transfer my money, you lock in my money so that I know exactly how much I can afford. And then you are there if I need to make a payment to my solicitor, you are here as well. I guess if I need to make regular payment for my mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. So we're in a lot of people's phones to help them with all of their money requirements, from the small transfers and there's no minimum amounts to multi-million-pound exposures. We've got clients, because we've been doing this over 25 years, that have been using us for over 20 years. So it's any stage bits of the purchase, but equally we've had clients that have imported classic cars from America. We've had people that have gone off on safaris in South Africa. They might have business exposures to manage as well. And yes, we've done planes, yachts, sports cars, F1 teams and everything in between.
So we did talk about property quite a lot, but you do not just deal with property, it's any money transfer for any purpose.
Correct, yeah. So any money exposure that people might have. We respectively still do live on an island. So when you're doing anything internationally, there is a currency exposure to manage. And we're helping people for any requirement that they might very well have.
And you said no minimum as well for a transfer.
Correct, yeah. So people can use this for hundreds or millions or anything in between.
In terms of money transfers, sometimes it can take quite a lot of time to transfer some money and it can be quite stressful as well. How long does it take for you to transfer money?
Great question, because when you're dealing with internationally, you've got international banks with different transfer limits. So this is referred to as kind of capital controls, how much money clients can move when they're not in the territory defined by the bank. So we've got actually over 800 different bank accounts around the world to make this process really easy and really quick. The slowest bit is normally getting the funds to us, but we've got all those domestic accounts around the world to make that as easy as possible. But a client can, in essence, open up an account with us this morning, trade with us this morning, send the funds this morning, we send them out, and the funds can be at the destination that same day. It can be really quick.
So quick and secure. Fantastic.
And obviously adding that value around saving money along the way, yes.
And let's say I'm buying this property in Portugal. You have offices in the UK, you have offices in Portugal. Who do I speak to?
Well, you still get your dedicated trader who'll be your point of contact to keep you informed around what's going on. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, we've got actually 2 offices in Portugal. So out there, you actually also see us on billboards and hear us in the radio. So you will come across us. In fact, quite a lot of clients and partners will go on holiday and have a break and then send me a photo walking off one of our buses or something. Yeah, we are that big in Europe.
And so what would be your last advice or one advice? If you had to give one advice to someone moving abroad, what would it be?
Respectively, all the services that Fine & Country work with are there to provide that value. So engage and speak to people early. You know, Google doesn't count as advice or AI doesn't count as advice anymore. You need to speak to the specialists of doing it. So start those conversations early so that you've got all that information, make it as stress-free as possible, and obviously take advantage of all the benefits involved.
And hopefully locking in that extra bedroom or swimming pool.
Exactly, yeah, correct.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
If there is one thing that really stood out for me today about moving money internationally, is that it's so much more than just an exchange rate. It's about planning ahead. It's about making sure that your money is safe and secure, and you are making it go that much further. If you're interested in Lumon services, or if you want to find your perfect dream home internationally, then head to the Fine & Country website where you will find all the information you need. Thank you very much for watching.